What if I told you that the final beat of your heart is not a period at the end of a sentence, but a comma? What if the silence that follows your last breath is not an empty void, but the deafening roar of a new beginning? For centuries, humanity has stood at the edge of this great mystery, peering into the abyss of death, armed only with faith, fear, or scientific denial. But what if there was a map, not a map of heaven or hell, but a map of the journey between worlds, a sacred chronology left behind by a man who journeyed there countless times while he slept? Edgar Cayce, the humble Kentucky photographer who became known as the Sleeping Prophet, left behind a legacy of thousands of psychic readings, and within them he detailed with chilling precision what the soul experiences in the first 40 days after it sheds its physical form. This is not poetry, it is not a consoling metaphor. According to Cayce, it is a divine protocol, a spiritual sequence so profound, so transformative, that understanding it could irrevocably alter the way you live your life and the way you view the moment of your death. Imagine it, just for a moment. The world you know fades. The frantic efforts to keep you here cease. Your body, the vessel you have known for a lifetime, lies still. And yet, you are more vibrantly, more intensely alive than ever before. You are pure awareness, a silent observer watching the drama of grief unfold around a body that is no longer yours. You can feel the sorrow in the room, you can hear the thoughts behind the tears, but you are untethered, a ghost in your own life's final scene. What comes next is not a simple choice between a pearly gate and a fiery pit. What comes next is a sacred process, an intricate journey of self-realization that determines not just your destination, but your very essence. Those first 40 days, Cayce insisted, are the most critical period in a soul's entire existence. So, if you have ever gazed at the stars and wondered, what's next? If you carry the hollow ache of losing someone you love and yearn to know where they are, or if you are simply a seeker of truth, unwilling to settle for the incomplete answers offered by dogma or materialism, then you have found yourself in the right place. What you are about to hear may challenge the foundations of your belief system, but it may also be the very thing that cements your faith in a universe that is intelligent, compassionate, and eternally alive. Before we embark on this sacred journey together, I want you to become a part of it. If you feel a resonance with this quest for knowledge, if this is the kind of conversation you've been waiting for, take a moment right now to subscribe to this channel and turn on all notifications. This ensures you won't miss a single step of the path we are about to walk. Now, take a deep breath, quiet your mind, and prepare to discover what truly happens when the soul goes home. The very instant of death, the moment the silver cord that binds the soul to the body is severed, is not a moment of annihilation, but of liberation. Yet, it is a liberation so total, so foreign, that it is almost always met with a profound sense of disorientation. Edgar Cayce described this as a sacred but staggering transition. One moment you are confined by flesh, bone, and the five senses. The next you are boundless awareness, perceiving reality not through eyes and ears, but through a direct, unfiltered knowing. You see the room not as a collection of objects, but as a symphony of energies. You feel the grief of your loved ones, not as sound, but as a palpable wave of emotional force that washes over you. There is no pain, no fear of the unknown, only an overwhelming sense of differentness. In these initial moments, Cayce's readings suggest the soul enters a strange and temporary state of limbo. It is a phase of pure realization, where the undeniable truth of its separation from the physical body sinks in. This is it, the soul understands. It has happened. Flashes of the life just lived flicker not in chronological order, but in moments of high emotional charge. The first kiss, the sting of betrayal, the pride of accomplishment, the shame of a secret cruelty. They all swirl around the newly freed consciousness. It's during this time that the soul begins its first, and perhaps most important, life review. But this is not a judgment from an external bearded deity on a throne. According to Case, the soul is judged only by itself, or more accurately, by its own higher self, that perfect, eternal aspect of its being that was never tainted by ego, fear, or illusion. This initial review is not about actions, but intentions. It's not what you did, but why you did it. The universe, it seems, is not concerned with your successes or failures, but with the love you gave and the love you withheld. Every choice, every word, every hidden thought is laid bare with an astonishing, unshakable clarity. For a soul who lived a life of compassion, service, and forgiveness, this moment is a blissful affirmation. For a soul who lived a life of selfishness, anger, and harm, this initial reckoning can be terrifying, not because of punishment, but because of the perfect, inescapable mirror of its own creation. For the first 3 days, a period that holds immense significance in numerous spiritual traditions, Case stated that the soul remains intimately close to its discarded physical vessel. This is not due to a sentimental attachment or a refusal to leave, but is a necessary part of the divine, natural process of detachment. Think of it like waking from an incredibly vivid and lifelong dream. It takes time for the mind to fully grasp that the dream world is no longer its reality. The soul hovers, observing the rituals of its own departure. It is present at its own funeral. It hears the eulogies, feels the prayers, and absorbs the currents of love and sorrow that fill the space. In this state, it often makes desperate attempts to communicate, to offer one last word of comfort, to say, "I'm okay, I'm right here." It wants to soothe the pain, to explain the unexplainable. But its voice is no longer of the physical world. It is a whisper on the frequency of spirit, and most people, deafened by their grief and their attachment to the material world, cannot hear it. Only the deeply intuitive, the psychically sensitive, or those connected by an exceptionally powerful bond of love might sense its presence. This is the source of that sudden, unexplained chill in a warm room, or that overwhelming wave of peace that can descend upon a mourner in the midst of their sorrow. It is not imagination. According to Case's revelations, it is the soul's final, heartfelt effort to bridge the veil and touch the world it has just left behind. As these 72 hours draw to a close, a fundamental shift begins to occur. The soul's focus on the earthly plane begins to wane, and it starts to feel a gentle but persistent pull, a magnetic summons from a higher dimension. Its earthly orientation is dissolving, and its spiritual senses are awakening. As this new awareness dawns, the soul is not left to navigate the transition alone. This is when, according to Case, spiritual guides begin to appear. These are not strangers or fearsome angelic beings. They are familiar, loving energies. Souls with whom we have shared deep connections across lifetimes, or higher beings who have been assigned to our spiritual development. Their presence is described as profoundly calming, a silent reassurance that says, "You are safe, you are not alone, welcome home." Their light envelops the soul, healing the shock of transition and preparing it for the next stage of its incredible journey. And so, as the fourth day unfolds, the soul, accompanied by its guides, begins its passage into what Case described as the intermediate planes. This is a realm, or more accurately, a spectrum of dimensions that exists between the dense reality of Earth and the highest realms of pure spirit. It is here that the true work of the afterlife begins. It is crucial to understand that this plane is not a place of judgment or punishment in the way earthly religions have often depicted it. There is no final exam, no sorting into good and bad. Instead, it is a realm of perfect reflection. The soul is guided to a level of existence that precisely matches its own vibrational frequency. What does this mean? It means your consciousness creates your reality in the most literal sense. If you cultivated a life of kindness, spiritual growth, learning and love, your soul will naturally gravitate toward a luminous, peaceful and beautiful environment. You might find yourself in a realm that resembles a perfect, sun-drenched garden, a serene library filled with the wisdom of the ages, or a place of breathtaking celestial music. The environment is a direct manifestation of the beauty you cultivated within yourself. Conversely, if a life was driven by hatred, greed, cruelty, or unrelenting materialism, the soul will awaken in a reality that mirrors those dark and heavy energies. It might be a dim, grey and desolate landscape, a place of confusion and shadow where the echoes of its own negativity play out in a relentless loop. Case emphasized that this is not a punishment inflicted by an angry God. It is a divine and compassionate law of spiritual physics. It is a mirror, not a prison. The soul is placed in this environment so that it can see, feel, and understand the consequences of the energies it created and embodied during its earthly existence. The layers of ego, denial, and rationalization that served it on earth are stripped away. Here, you cannot lie to yourself. You cannot blame others for your state of being. You are brought face to face with the raw, unvarnished truth of your spiritual essence. For some souls, this confrontation is a profound shock. They see for the first time the ugliness they carried, an ugliness they may have successfully hidden from the world and even from themselves. For others, it is an incredible liberation, a shedding of the false personas and heavy burdens they carried, allowing them to finally feel light and free. Between the 5th and the 10th day of this journey, another profound transformation begins. The soul, now acclimated to its new state of being, starts to encounter other spirits. Some are familiar, members of its spiritual family who have come to welcome it. Others are strangers, souls on their own unique paths of learning and reflection. Communication in this realm is nothing like on Earth. There are no words, no spoken languages. According to Case, the universal language of the afterlife is telepathy, the direct, instantaneous transmission of thought, feeling, and intent. It is a pure and incorruptible form of communication. You cannot hide your true feelings or intentions. They are as visible and obvious as your physical face was on Earth. In this realm, everything is energy, and that energy is tangible. Your emotions, your thoughts, your memories, they are not private, internal experiences. They radiate from you, creating an energetic field that others can perceive. They literally create your surroundings. If you carry a heavy burden of guilt, that guilt may manifest as a palpable weight or a dark cloud that follows you. If you carry unconditional love, it may surround you like a brilliant, warm light. It is here, in this community of souls, that the first great lesson of the afterlife is truly learned and integrated. Consciousness is the ultimate creative force. You are the architect of your own reality. This stage is also where Case warned that some souls can become stuck. Those who died with intense, unresolved earthly attachments, a consuming regret, an unforgivable grudge, an obsession with wealth or fame, or an addiction they refuse to face, can become trapped in the lower levels of this intermediate plane. They are not imprisoned by any external force. They are imprisoned by their own refusal to let go. They replay the dramas of their earthly lives, obsess over unfinished business, and haunt the energetic fringes of the physical world, unable to move forward because they are still looking backward. These souls can remain in this state for what would be considered years or even decades in Earth time, until they finally choose to release their attachments and embrace the healing and growth that awaits them. But for the souls who are ready, the journey continues onward and upward. Between day 11 and day 20, the soul often receives what Case described as a calling. It is not an audible sound, but a deep inner knowing, an irresistible pull toward a place of profound learning and revelation. This is when the soul begins to truly understand the intricate structure of the spiritual universe. It may be guided to enter what has been described in many traditions as the Hall of Records, the Temple of Learning, or the Akashic Library. Case insisted these are not myths or metaphors. They are actual locations in the spiritual dimension, vast repositories of all knowledge, accessible to souls who are prepared to grow. Here, the soul meets beings of immense wisdom and light, elders, teachers, and master guides who radiate a compassion and power that is beyond human comprehension. Their purpose is not to judge or punish, but to reveal. The soul is shown its life not just from its own perspective, but from the perspective of every single person it ever interacted with. It feels the joy it brought to others and the pain it caused them, not as a concept, but as a direct experience. It is shown visions of its past lives, uncovering the karmic patterns, the recurring lessons, and the soul contracts that shaped its most recent incarnation. It is shown the missed opportunities for growth and the hidden strengths it never knew it possessed. The purpose of this profound and often overwhelming experience is not to induce guilt, but to foster understanding. It helps the soul to grasp the full tapestry of its path, why it was born, what it came to learn, what it achieved, and what lessons still remain. It is after this profound period of learning, Case believed, that many souls, filled with a new sense of purpose and a desire to make things right, consciously choose to reincarnate, not because they are forced to, but because they realize their work on earth is not yet done. As we delve deeper into this incredible journey, into the sacred mechanics of the soul's evolution, it's a perfect moment to pause and connect. This information is not just a fascinating story, it's a blueprint for living a more conscious life. To help us build this community of seekers, I have a small request. If what you've heard so far is resonating with you, if it's opening new doors of understanding, please type the number 777 in the comments below. It's a number often associated with spiritual awakening and intuition. This small act lets us know we're on the right path together and helps others who are searching for this knowledge to find their way here. Now, as the days progress into the third week after the soul's departure from the physical body, something even more profound begins to unfold. The soul, now more conscious of its eternal nature and its intricate purpose, starts to remember. It doesn't just remember the life it just left behind, it begins to remember other lifetimes. According to Case, the soul is an eternal traveler, and in this higher vibrational state, the veil of forgetting that is necessary for an earthly incarnation begins to thin and dissolve. Memories from previous incarnations rise to the surface, not as random, confusing fragments, but with a divine purpose and clarity. The soul might suddenly have a complete, immersive memory of being a builder in ancient Egypt, a healer in a Celtic tribe, a mariner in Greece, or a farmer in ancient China. It doesn't just see these lives, it re-experiences their core emotions, their triumphs, their heartbreaks, and most importantly, their lessons. It is at this stage that the soul begins to see the breathtakingly intricate design of its own evolution. It sees how every single life is interconnected, a single chapter in a magnificent epic. It understands how a vow made in one lifetime could create a powerful bond with another soul hundreds of years later. It sees how a trauma left unhealed in one incarnation created a specific challenge or phobia in the next. It recognizes the faces of its soul group appearing again and again in different roles, a mother in one life, a child in another, a bitter rival in one, a beloved spouse in the next. For some souls, this panoramic view of their own history can be overwhelming. The realization that they have been repeating the same mistakes, fighting the same battles, and learning the same lessons over and over again can be a difficult truth to accept. For others, It brings an exhilarating rush of clarity, as if all the scattered and confusing puzzle pieces of their existence have finally snapped into place. A profound sense of divine order permeates their consciousness. Nothing was an accident, no relationship was random, no suffering was without meaning, no joy was without purpose. It all had meaning. And for the very first time, the soul beholds the full, majestic arc of its own evolution across the ages. This profound understanding brings one of two things: a deep, abiding peace, or an equally deep and passionate desire for redemption. It is at this point, Case said, that many souls make a sacred vow, a promise to their higher self, to return to the earthly schoolhouse and finally correct what they couldn't before, to finally master the lesson they were sent to learn. By the 30th day, the soul has traversed realms of memory and knowledge that are unimaginable to the incarnated mind. It has reached a plateau of understanding. It is no longer lost, no longer confused, no longer searching for answers in the dark. It has faced the truth of its life. It has begun to understand the sweep of its eternal history, and it now feels ready. Ready to move forward, ready to rise to the next level of its being. But there is one final step, one last and most sacred mirror to face before the journey of this 40-day period is complete. Case described this as the encounter with the higher self. This is not a meeting with another entity. It is a merging with the most radiant, divine, and perfect version of you that has always existed beyond time and space. It is the part of you that never forgot it was one with God, the source of all that is. This self is not your ego. It is not your personality from your last life. It is the purest expression of your soul's divine essence, a being of unimaginable light, wisdom, and unconditional love. To meet this higher self is not like looking into a reflection. Case's readings suggest it is like a single drop of water finally returning to the ocean and remembering its own oceanic nature. It is the ultimate homecoming. For some souls, this meeting is a brief, blissful moment of recognition and alignment. For others, particularly those who have achieved a high degree of spiritual awareness on earth, it is the most transformative and ecstatic moment of their entire spiritual existence. The higher self communicates without words, beyond even the telepathy of the intermediate planes. It is a direct transmission of knowing. It shows you who you truly are, not the limited being you thought you were on earth, but the magnificent, eternal, and divine being you have always been. And in this moment of perfect clarity and self-love, it presents you with a choice, the ultimate choice, born of absolute free will. You can choose to stay in the spiritual realms, to continue learning, growing, and serving in other dimensions of reality. Or you can choose to return to Earth, armed with a renewed sense of mission, a clearer understanding of your purpose, and a deeper connection to your own divinity. Case emphasized again and again that nothing is ever forced upon the soul. The soul always chooses its own path forward. In the final 10 days of this sacred 40-day journey, from day 30 to day 40, most souls have made their choice in concert with their higher self and their guides. Those who choose to remain in the spiritual world for a period of rest, further learning, or service often fully enter what Case called the soul group. This is more than just a concept. It is a literal community of spirits who are energetically and karmically connected, evolving together lifetime after lifetime. This group serves as your true spiritual family. You have known them before, and you will know them again. They are the souls who have played the most significant roles in your earthly dramas. Some were your parents, some were your children, some were your greatest loves, and some were your most challenging adversaries who, on a soul level, agreed to play that difficult role to help you grow. There is no coincidence. It is all part of a divine and intricate design. Within this soul group, the soul begins to understand the ultimate currency of the universe. It is not knowledge, not power, not accomplishment, not even righteousness. The ultimate currency, the very fabric of existence, is love. Everything else, the successes, the failures, the pain, the possessions, fades into insignificance in the light of this realization. But the love that was given and received remains. That love becomes the bridge to the next phase of the soul's existence. Whether that phase is a period of blissful rest, a new mission as a guide, or preparation for another rebirth, depends entirely on the soul's own evolution and its own choice. But by the time the 40th day arrives, the journey that began in the silence and confusion of death culminates in a state of profound clarity and peace. The soul is no longer afraid, it is no longer alone, it knows who it is, and it knows where it is going. Once the 40th day arrives, something shifts permanently in the soul's energetic structure. It's as if a door to the past gently closes and another, leading to its future, silently opens. Edgar Cayce emphasized that by this point, the soul has either aligned itself with its next phase of growth or, in rarer cases of extreme attachment, has chosen to remain in a cycle of confusion, still tethered to earthly concerns. But for the vast majority of souls, for those who have made peace with their departure, who have faced their truth, embraced their past, and reconnected with their divine essence, the journey takes a deeply peaceful and purposeful turn. Cayce referred to this state as spiritual attunement. It is a frequency, a state of resonance that the soul locks into. From this attuned state, it can ascend to even higher realms of existence, prepare to return to Earth with a greater and more conscious mission, or even choose to remain as a guide for other souls who are just beginning their own journey through the veil. These roles are not fantasies. According to Cayce, they are very real spiritual occupations. Not all souls rush back to Earth. Some find their purpose in service from the other side, helping to guide and comfort family members still on Earth, working in what Cayce described as realms of healing and restoration, places of immense peace and light where souls broken by severe trauma on Earth can receive comfort and spiritual repair before continuing their journey. This is one of the most powerful and comforting messages from Cayce's work. Death is not the end, and neither is the 40th day. It is a checkpoint, a sacred graduation. Just as a child graduates from one level of school to the next, the soul moves into its next phase of learning with more awareness, more purpose, and more light. But Cayce also delivered a stark and crucial warning. This incredible, transformative journey is not automatic. It is not a guaranteed ride. Our experiences after death are shaped, in their entirety, by the way we choose to live right now. If we live a life of conscious ignorance, chasing only material things, nursing grievances and refusing to look within, we arrive at the moment of death utterly unprepared. We are lost, confused, and our journey through these initial stages will be far more challenging. But if we live with intention, if we actively seek spiritual growth, if we practice forgiveness, serve others, and listen to the quiet whispers of our own conscience, we awaken on the other side ready to learn, ready to forgive, ready to rise. This is why Cayce spent so many years of his life imploring humanity to prepare, not just for death, but for the life after death. So what does this cosmic blueprint mean for you, right here, right now, in your everyday life? It means that every single thought matters. Every act of kindness you extend to a stranger, every time you choose to forgive someone who has wronged you, every moment you choose compassion over anger. These are not small, insignificant gestures. They are the luminous bricks with which you are building the path for your own soul beyond this life. When you leave this world, and one day we all will, you will not take your car, your house, or your bank account. You will not take your job title or your social status. You will take only one thing: the quality of the consciousness you have built inside yourself. That is what meets you in the first moments after death. That is what becomes your reality in those first 40 days. So, start preparing now. Not out of fear of judgment, but out of the wisdom of a spiritual being who knows their true home is not of this world. Case's most enduring message was perhaps his simplest. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. The more we understand and embody that truth, the less we fear the transition called death, and the more fully, vibrantly, and lovingly we begin to live. Now that you know what awaits the soul in those sacred 40 days, the only question that remains is, what are you doing today that your eternal soul will thank you for tomorrow? Let's take this even deeper. Imagine someone you loved who has passed away. You stood at their funeral, you shed tears, you prayed. But in the quiet moments you surely wondered, where are they now? What are they feeling? Are they at peace? Case's revelations offer not just a vague sense of comfort, but a profound and detailed potential answer. Your loved one, in their own unique way, walked this very same 40-day path. They reviewed their life, not as a film, but as a deep feeling. They saw you, they felt your love, they remembered shared moments you might have long forgotten. They felt your love as a tangible force in the room, even when their body was still. And if they were ready, if they were open to their own growth, they were greeted by their guides, they were healed from their regrets, and they were led into the brilliant light of understanding. The dead are not gone, not in the way our physical senses perceive it. They are simply walking a path we have yet to walk, a path that one day will welcome us home too. This is why these teachings matter so deeply. They bridge the gap between the living and those who have passed on, reminding us that life is so much bigger than flesh and bone, that love is a bond that time and space cannot sever, and that everything we do here today echoes into eternity. Now, turn that lens of imagination upon yourself. See yourself many, many years from now, at the end of a long and full life. You take your final, gentle breath, and in that profound stillness, you awaken. You awaken to a new reality, and you begin to see the luminous faces of those who went before you, waiting to welcome you. You hear their thoughts of love, you feel their peaceful presence, and you are not afraid, because you understand what is happening. You have prepared. You know that this is the beginning of the soul's true journey, not its end. You step into the sacred mirror of your own life with grace, with acceptance, with a willingness to learn. You accept, you forgive, you rise. That is the incredible power of awareness. That is the gift of this sacred knowledge. It's not just information for the mind, it's a catalyst for transformation of the soul. The more we learn about our eternal nature, the more we expand our consciousness. And when we expand, we begin to live with a new kind of courage, a quiet, steady courage that whispers to us in moments of doubt and fear, you are more than this body, you are more than this struggle, you are eternal. If this message has sparked something within you, if it has caused you to think differently about life, death, and the magnificent journey of the soul, please don't let that spark fade. Carry it with you. Let it shape your choices. Let it deepen your compassion for yourself and for others. And most importantly, help others to hear this message of hope and light. To help us build a global community dedicated to truth, faith, and enlightenment in a world that so deeply needs it, please take a final moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone you feel needs to hear it. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, your questions, or even your own experiences. We read every single one, and together we create a space for profound conversation. Remember, your soul's journey doesn't begin at death. It begins right now with your very next conscious breath. The more aware you are, the more beautiful that journey becomes.